everyone. Welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about how perfectionism can halt personal and professional growth. The first thing I'd like to do is really address what perfectionism is. So let's get right into this. You ready, Jen?
Let's do it.
All right. So basically, it is a common and practical way to want to improve your status. Let's put this. Let me take a step back. So when, as humans, we want to do things and reach our goals, one of the things we look at is common and practical ways to improve our status, right? So that's normal. That's just very normal to strive for success, to reach our goals. But one of the things when we're talking about perfectionism, which is a trait that can be toxic, and the ways this can be toxic is it can be all consuming. So if we're looking at perfectionism, that can be all consuming. It can support the rigidity of our thoughts. That means not really changing those thoughts, just looking at things one way, really being rigid about that. It can impact our actions. It can impact our behavior. We can feel increased angst to strive for perfection and to always look for someone to like us, right? Or to avoid judgment. So those are really the factors or the areas that you see when you're really trying to strive for perfectionism. Now, I'm not going to wax on about the different types of perfectionism because there are many different types. But what I do want to mention are some signs of perfectionism. Are you ready to get right into the different signs?
Yeah, I want to hear us.
Okay. Yeah, because there are so many. And I think this is really an important point here to make. There are so many different signs, and remember, it's the degree, right? The degree to which you notice yourself being impacted by these different things. So the first one is the need to feel right, to always feel right about something. The need for constant approval. The inability to accept assessment or evaluation from somebody else, or your choice to be inflexible, which could stunt your growth. It's also the rigid and harsh way that you might view the world. Thoughts, Jen?
The word rigid really sticks out to me because when I think about perfectionism, and I have said it in a book, actually one of the first few books that I published, I talked about I am a recovering perfectionist. And there is this rigidity that you place on yourself, and it is extremely difficult. And I had to ask myself, and when you take a step back and you ask yourself, where did this come from? Are you coming from a space of insecurity? Are you coming from a space where you're trying to win approval because you didn't feel good enough? Where did that come from? Because obviously we're trying so hard to portray this image, not that we're not worthy, not that we're not good people. It's not about that. It's this trying so hard to look like we have everything together and just hanging on to that approval stamp. And that's where I'm talking about that rigidity. And it's really a lot of this insecurity. Mm-hmm. And I think about how perfectionism can really affect our mood. And when we're going back to this idea of rigidity, because it's like, oh, there's no leeway for mistakes. Oh, there's no leeway to like mess up, and you can't think one way. And if anything is out of place, like you just lose your ish. and you can't be accepting. And that's where you also talk about flexibility. Yeah. And when you are so close-minded and have no space for flexibility, you are just going to continuously find yourself in this spiraling down and cycle of being disappointed. And you know what's so crazy, Summer? I don't think it's not even so much the disappointment that we think is going to come from the other people, right, or who we're trying to please. Yeah. It's the disappointment that we have within ourselves. Yeah. Oh, I didn't hit this. Oh, I didn't do this. And so we keep falling into this space of disappointment and getting really hard on ourselves. And so it just becomes this space where we're creating that I got to be perfect. I can't mess up. Okay, well, I'm not going to get this. And it just, even describing it sounds so good. Like it's just too much. Like that doesn't have any grace and ease in it and no flexibility. So I love the things that you're pointing out, because it's very important for us to self-analyze and ask ourselves, where is this coming from? What started all this craziness?
Oh my gosh. I love what you're saying here because seriously, when we do put that much pressure on ourselves, it's not exactly, as you said, coming from the outside world and that keeping that stamp of approval. It's
Yeah.
what's happening in here that's feeling so overwhelming and almost like you're suffocating.
Hmm.
And it's like, why do you want to be in that unhealthy space? Right? Because
Yeah.
once you start unlayering and getting rid of those toxic feelings and that personal oppression that you're doing to yourself, once you start unlayering that and getting rid of that, it feels so much better. So
Hmm.
this leads me to my next step. What you can do if you're struggling with perfectionism that's taking a toll on your mental and physical well-being. So here's some tips. Identify what might be prompting you to feel unsafe. Yes, unsafe and anxious in the world, because these are the things that are brewing inside of you that are the precipitators to why you're doing what you're doing. Identify your triggers and insecurities. Oh my gosh. Have you done that? Do you know your triggers? Like when
Oh, I
something,
know a lot of them. I'm sure there's still a lot of them out there that I haven't found yet.
but when you do know what those triggers are, it's so helpful because you can then reframe and get yourself back on in check, right? And
Oh
then
yeah.
recognize, oh my gosh, recognize your criticism of yourself and others. We can be so hard on ourselves and we can also be hard on others. But what's that really doing for us? Is that making us feel like, we have more power, we have more control, how we're viewing the world as unsafe and dangerous? Where is that really coming from?
Yeah.
And then also reframe your thoughts by releasing what you do not have control over. Just release it and lean in to that fear.
Ah, Summer, these are so amazing, and these tips are super helpful. And so we'd love to know what you guys think. Is perfectionism something that you've struggled with, that you've gotten past and moving on to greater pastures? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video and found it helpful, make sure you hit the like button. And more importantly, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know about any other upcoming videos and content that we have to put out. And don't forget, there's other videos we would love for you to check out. So make sure to hit that as well. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.